Our next guest will weigh in on all things Washington, although he's a governor, including the DOGE cuts, courting private business and investment, and more. Join us now, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. He's chairman of the Republican Governors Association, was recently named to President Trump's bipartisan Council of Governors. And Governor Kemp, it's good to see you this morning.
Morning, Joe.
There's a wide range of opinions about what's happening with DOGE in Washington and Elon Musk and President Trump. Some people think even states should be conducting their own DOGE experiment on employees. Where do you come down? I assume that might be something you're thinking about.
Well, I'd say this. One thing everybody can agree on is there's a lot going on, and that's certainly the case at the state level. And the thing is, Joe, when you talk especially to Republican governors, we've been doing DOGE for a long time, making government efficient, balancing our budgets, deregulating, making sure that we're efficient and responding. That's one of the reasons that we're the #1 state in the country for business, because we have great speed to the market, working with our local governments and cutting out bureaucracy and red tape. And I know you're going to have Governor DeSantis on later. I saw him talking yesterday about his DOGE, and he basically said this is good, like a DOGE 2.0, that it's a continuation of what they've been doing. And so I think you're seeing at the federal level now them taking on things that a lot of states have done, especially coming out of COVID.
So this type of thing is already behind you, Governor, or are you going to announce something similar?
Well, listen, government bureaucracy is never behind us. I mean, we have bills going through the Georgia General Assembly right now that are doing these same type things. But I'll give you an example. Coming out of COVID, when we were open for business and people were trying to, finish construction projects, one thing people realize, if the state government's open but a local government's not, and you can't get your permit, how do you assure people that you're building that project in the right way? And so we allowed private engineers through emergency orders to do that. Well, we have now codified that into the law. So you can choose either option. You can get the local governments to okay your permits and steps through the construction project, or you can get, engineers to do that. So it gives companies an option. So that's a way of making government more efficient that we've already done in the state of Georgia. But bureaucracy runs deep, so there is more to do, and I'm certainly supportive of those efforts at the state level going forward.
You have the CDC based in your state in Atlanta, so there's going to be some layoffs there, maybe 1,000 layoffs. How do we make sure that it doesn't go too far, cut to the bone, if you will? Is that something to worry about?
Well, I think that's certainly something that, the executive branch and President Trump and his team are going to have to work through as they do all this. I mean, look, I don't think, at least from my perspective, I think most Americans agree that the federal bureaucracy needs a right-sizing. The amount of money that's been spent, the amount of people that have been added to government, making sure that people that are working for the federal government are managed and held accountable and are showing up for work every day. I mean, I've heard stories about some people that never went into the office the whole Biden administration. So making sure that those people are there, that they're working every day, that they're giving the American taxpayer a good day's work, I think is certainly something that makes sense to me. Right-sizing the federal government makes sense to me. Look, cuts are hard. But also, we know we cannot continue to spend like we are. We cannot continue to have the debts and deficits like we are. And we can't continue to have the interest rates like we are. I saw you reporting on Home Depot earlier. I mean, it looked like great earnings to me, but they realized they're in a tough environment with interest rates being so high. So I think, President Trump ran on fixing those issues, right-sizing and taking bureaucracy out of the federal government. And as y'all were just talking, it's a little ugly sometimes making the sausage, but at the end of the day, it tastes good. So, my perspective is give them a little leeway. Even Elon Musk himself has said, we're going to make mistakes. When we do that, we're going to own them and fix them, and then we'll move on. But I can tell you, Joe, I was in a meeting yesterday talking about energy with some people at high levels of government, and the speed that they're moving to get bureaucracy out of the way so that we can build the transmission and energy grid and reduce the permitting that's required on these projects. That is going to be good for our country when we're competing with other countries like China and so on. And it's also going to be good for keeping people working in our country, putting people back to work, investing in infrastructure in our country, not some other country. And those kind of things are really exciting to me. So I know,
hey, Governor,
while you have some things that are controversial out there, just know that there's also, speed of the market on a lot of things working every day. It's be good. It's going to be good for the states, but more importantly, it's going to be good for the American people.
Hey, Governor, amen to a lot of the things you were saying. One question I have for you, though, is this sort of big question about whether Americans should be receiving checks in the context of either being described as a refund check or a dividend check as a function of DOGE, or given, I think, your concerns about the debt and deficit, and frankly mine, that money should be used to pay down the debt so that we're not leveraging ourselves further by giving out money we don't have.
Well, I mean, look, that's the balance that the Congress is going to have to decide which way they want to go. In the past, people have wanted to give out more money than we're taking in. We don't do that in the states. We balance our budget every year. We're working this year right now to do our third $1 billion tax rebate, which is going to give every Georgia family around $500 that paid taxes last year. And I think that's one of the things that the federal government and the policymakers have to be careful of is cost in the country. I mean, that's something that I think President Trump won the campaign on. So I understand putting money back in people's pockets to help them deal with that. So, I'll let them try to figure out what's the right balance there. I think also extending the tax cuts is very important. So I think they can figure out ways to do that. I know at the state level, we're doing that while also balancing the budget. And then we're also working on lowering our corporate and personal tax rates again this year as well.
So, Governor, Tim Scott wants you to run for Senate next year. You remember Georgia was the center of the universe a couple of years ago for the balance of the Senate. Would that be against Warnock? Would you run against Warnock? And in your view, I mean, a lot of people would think that that's setting things straight after Georgia suddenly had two Democrats.
Well, we always like to think Georgia's the center of the universe when it comes to business.
Yeah, you do. I hear you on that. I kind of agree with that.
To Germany. We're focused on tax cuts and tort reform. Our legislative session ends
You're not going to answer me?
I've told people, Joe, I'm going to make a decision about what to do next. But one of the things is we promised the people of our state, and President Trump promised the American people what we would do if we got elected. And so that's what they're doing right now. I know they realize they have a short window because the Democrats are really just trying to run the clock out on this 4-year term. But it's very important to me that we deliver on the promises that we made in the campaign. We have about 2 months to go to be able to do that in the state, and then we can worry about politics.
Okay.